Sandra Day O'Connor was the first woman on the Supreme Court of the United States of America, breaking the barrier of women in the workforce and government since her appointment in 1981. While controversial at the time, her impact on our country has since overruled the controversy. The Supreme Court of the United States was founded in 1789 after the Judiciary Act of 1789 was passed by Congress. The court consisted of 6 men at its start, and the amount of justices fluctuated until 1869, when the number was set to 9. However, this only included men. Our nation's leaders had appointed only men to the Supreme Court until late 20th century. Although many women had served in our government before then, none had ever landed a position as high as Supreme Court Justice. Sandra Day O'Connor was born in 1930 in El Paso, Texas. She grew up on the Lazy Bee Ranch on the border of Arizona and New Mexico. There, she wasn't subjected to gender discrimination and didn't know much about it. So after attending Stanford University and graduating Stanford Law School with high marks, she was surprised to be rejected from every firm she applied to. Eventually, she was accepted to be a legal secretary at a law firm in Los Angeles, after being asked how well she could type. Her husband was drafted into the military in 1953, and she followed him to Frankfurt, Germany, where she worked as a civilian quartermaster corps attorney. After returning to the U.S. in 1957, she found work as a civilian lawyer in a strip mall. From 1965 to 1969, she served as Arizona's Assistant Attorney General before running for Superior Court Judge of Arizona's Maricopa County in 1974, and eventually was elected to the Arizona Court of Appeals. She kept that position until being nationally recognized and nominated for a position on the Supreme Court. From the start of the Supreme Court in 1789 to now, 114 people have served as justices. Out of 114, 110 have been men, which makes the 4 women just 3.51% of all the justices. For 192 years, the only justices to serve had been men, and it wasn't until the early 1980s that the first woman served on the Supreme Court. The highest position in our government a woman had ever had until Madeleine Albright was elected Secretary of State in 1997.
I will send to the Senate the nomination of Judge Sandra Day O'Connor of Arizona Court of Appeals for confirmation as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court.
In his presidential campaign, former U.S. President Ronald Reagan pledged he would nominate a woman to the U.S. Supreme Court for the first time. Many didn't believe in it or want it to happen, but he kept his promise and found the most qualified woman he could, who turned out to be Sandra Day O'Connor. With a Senate confirmation vote of 99-0, she took her spot on the court and changed U.S. history. While some controversy surrounded her appointment, she became an important member of the court and overpowered the controversy. Sandra Day O'Connor was initially admired by feminists and unwanted by some men. While feminists loved that there was finally a woman on the Supreme Court, their love for her faded when she joined the well-established conservative alliance with fellow justices Warren Burger and William Rehnquist. However, the feminists weren't the only ones who didn't favor her like they should have. There were lots of men across the country who believed she would only vote for feminist issues, but that didn't prove to be the case, for she was an independent thinker and voted the way she believed, not how others wanted her to vote or thought she would. Serving 24 terms on the Supreme Court from 1981 to 2006, Sandra Day O'Connor paved a path for women in government with her influential role. as the decisive vote on important cases like Bush versus Gore, Grutter versus Bollinger, and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, she earned the reputation as a critical swing vote. She has become a role model for young women who want to be as successful as her, the pioneer woman of the Supreme Court. This is displayed in the raise of women attending law school from 36% to 48% from her appointment to her retirement. Most recently, there are 3 women serving on the Supreme Court: Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan, which wouldn't have been possible if Sandra Day O'Connor wasn't the first.
I wanted, since I was the first, not to be the last. And I wanted to do the job well so it would provide encouragement for women to serve in the future.
When Justice